Alright, so here's what we're doing with the dash. So, it was kind of a pain in the ass getting it out because of these studs that run all the way along the bottom of it. Where's the other one? Yeah, that one up under there. But I got it out. So, and it had a dash cap on it. And I had to bust that up and get it off because that was all screwed up too. So, basically what you end up with these dashes is the vinyl flakes off and it cracks and everything. And what you want to do is you want to get yourself a flat surface to work with. So scrape off all the flaking vinyl like I did. If there's stuff that's still hard and still attached, don't worry about it, just leave it. And then you get these cracks here and they kind of bow upwards, and then that's gonna screw up your level surface. So like this foam was pretty deteriorated, so I was just able to take some Scotch-Brite, sand it down, sand it flat. You just want a level surface. You don't necessarily need to fill in these cracks because we're just going to be ending up going over it with this foam anyway. So, and then what I did was, because the foam was so flaky, I soaked it in tongue-tied, trim adhesive, and I soaked it, let it dry, and so now it's still kind of sticky, but that's fine. Now we have it basically re-solidified the foam on top, so it's not flaky, and now we can get the foam to stick to it. Now we got a good surface to work with. So next thing we're gonna do is, like I said here, you measure. Going to run all those wheels down. You measure what you need to cover the surface, measure it out, cut it, and just spray the adhesive and put the foam over it. And I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to go over this area here. I may just run the material real tight and pinch it, because this is actually still okay. I mean, this here is, I don't know, I may put a little bit of foam right in there to cover it up, or I may go over the whole thing with foam. I'm not sure yet. We're gonna see how it goes, so I'm gonna do that, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I got the top covered. Basically, just camera focus. Went over it, kind of trimmed the edges. I think I'm only gonna do the top, so that this won't bulge out too much, because I'm going to have to get the cluster face plate back in here, and I can just wrap it tight around this edge so it'll look pretty even. The only problem area is going to be this right here, and my cut and stitch skills are not that good, so I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to tackle that just yet. There may end up being a crease here, or I may have to fold it and then stitch it after the fact with it on it. Probably not going to look the greatest right there, but overall, when I'm done with it, it's going to look better than it was. So, and I'm just going to kind of wrap it tight right there too. And I just kind of overlapped it at the back, just a tiny bit, but you're not really going to see that. So I'm going to lay it out, cut the piece I need, and then start wrapping it. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use super glue and a staple gun. This is if you have a metal backing, pretty much just going to have to use super glue. It holds it the best, so I'm going to use a staple gun because this is plastic, and super glue to hold it. So we'll get that going. So here we are. I'm probably going to have to transplant this project back to my garage tonight, so you see it in a different area you want to pick back up. But basically you just want to lay it out on your material to get your measurements. You know, wrap it over to where you're going to want to tack it, and then basically, you know, roll it up over, and then pull the material up to the other place you're going to want to tack it, and then make your marks, cut your material, and then you've got your piece you're going to work with. So This is not like a perfect professional job. This is just the way I do it on a cheap budget. Instead of paying an upholstery shop to do it, I may have to trim that a little. Or no, that's the end. That's the back of this. That's not a big deal. You know, I think the entire cost I'm in this right now, the material was $15 from Hobby Lobby. It's a nice black vinyl pseudo leather material, and I have quite a bit left over here. The foam, project foam from Walmart, I think it was $10 for all of that. And you have quite a bit left over, so that's $25. Trim adhesive I had. I think it's about $10 a bottle, so you're in that $35 for doing this. But we'll see what it looks like when it comes out. Alright, so I transplanted the project to my garage, and we're using the hood of the Newport for it. So here's where we are. First, I started out on the back. These temp staples didn't go all the way through. They're kind of temporary. When I finish this up, I'm gonna super glue it. Basically, what you want to do, you want to tack it in a couple of places. Get your starting point. Get your starting point back here. Then wrap the material around like I did here. So, and then you're gonna want to start in the most difficult spot possible, which was going to be this spot here, the center spot. So I stretched it over this here and tacked it up underneath there. And then basically what I'm going to do from here is, I wonder if I can set this up. So you can see what I'm doing here. Yeah, probably not. Anyway, and basically you just want to take it and you want to stretch and tack as you go. Try to stretch it as flat as possible and tack it. I know I'm going to end up with some wrinkles here. It's going to be how it is. I'm going to try to get as straight as I can, but you know, it is what it is. And try to tuck the foam on the back as you're wrapping it around. And right here, this is going to have to be cut here and wrapped around. Same thing here. But I'm going to start stretching and tacking and give an update here in a bit. Alright, so I kind of ran into trouble here. Get this sorted out. So I had to cut this because it was not happening. It was just not going to stretch. And I actually did. The first tack I had to do was under here. So that looks pretty straight. I had to tack it under there, and I'm going to trim some of that and super glue it in place in these two spots here because I'm thinking I'll put those permanently there. I had to add some foam in here on this spot right here. So what I'm going to do here is, I think once I get this side all full down, I'm going to stretch it, and then I'm going to kind of bring this together and fold it over and stitch it all together there. Not going to look the greatest, but you know, is what it is, like I said. Or I might make a stitched patch to go over it. I would prefer less to do that, but we'll see. So I'm going to super glue this side, and I'm going to try to get wrapping on this one and see what we can do about this centerpiece here. So here's where I'm at now. Got this side wrapped up over here, a little bit around here. There's going to be some wrinkles actually here, but I'm actually not so concerned about that because it's kind of a it's kind of a pattern ripple. It actually looks okay. Like, it kind of looks similar to how they used to do the ripple tucks on old upholstery. I may tuck it down just a little bit more, make it look a little bit more patterned. But I'm not too concerned about that there. I'm really not happy about this here. This piece here was fucking tough. is what it is. So I have more material. I could start over if I wanted to, but actually what I think I'm gonna do, stitch this in right here, and then wrap it down, fold the edges in and stitch it, and then I'll have a stitched piece right here to cover that up. So I had to tuck a piece of material under there to take up that, just in case. But yeah, in this here, I'm just gonna cut and tuck this on this side, and then cut and tuck that. But yeah, this isn't too bad here. This isn't too bad here. And there were gonna be some ripples somewhere. This was definitely a tough piece to wrap. So I'm gonna stitch this in and then see what we got. All right, so here's where it is now. I stitched this piece in. And honestly, I'm thinking of just running it like that. Just running it down. Maybe run a needle through there on both sides. Yeah, doesn't look the greatest, but honestly, it didn't turn out as well as I had hoped. But I don't know. Honestly, what the fuck are you gonna do? I'm not a professional, just trying to save a little money, fix the dash. So, I don't know, man. We'll see. I'm kind of beat. I'm gonna go to bed. We'll see what I want to cook up with it tomorrow. Maybe I'll put this shit out here. Maybe I'll roll that under. Threading's kind of loose. Of course, I fucking need to do it by hand. It's not really straight. Tuck that under with one hand. I don't know. That's not really gonna work. But you know, if I stretch it out, stretch it, pull it down, it doesn't look that bad. So, I don't know. We'll see what I want to do with it. All right, so here it is finished. I'm really, not very happy with it. Kind of looks like hammered dog shit, if I'm being honest. Just this area here was just a giant pain in the ass, and it affected the whole piece. It was rippled everywhere, and I had no choice but to cover under there and glue over it. I'll show you the one I did in my Bronco. At the end of it, it looks a lot better. This method works better if you're doing a symmetrical piece and not an asymmetrical piece like this. But basically what I did was, and honestly, if you get, I used this felt tape that I had, and that kind of works even better to hold it at the back edges. I had to put a couple of screws up there. So basically super glue, staples, tape, and honestly, if you get like the aluminum speed tape from Home Depot, that stuff works even better, and it helps tack it up at the corners. That one didn't stick. I need to redo that one, but yeah, I mean, it's better than the cracked up shit that was on there. It's whatever. I may redo it later. Actually stitch it properly, but you can do this method. It works better on dashes that are a little bit more straight and not asymmetrical. So I'll show you the one on my Bronco. It came out a lot better, but I'm just gonna roll with this for now because my dad wants to drive the car. Just to show a comparison, this is how the dash in my Bronco turned out. Nice, straight, nice clean wrap. The edges, had to do kind of like a ripple tuck at the edges, which no big deal. Doesn't look bad. We got a nice straight flush wrap out of this dash, and at the edges here it didn't hug it perfectly, but it still came out with a nice curve to it, and it looks good. I was really happy with the way the wrap I did turned out on my Broncos dash. So as you can see, I used the same method. It comes out a lot better on straight dashes and dashes that don't have a lot of weird curves and patterns to them. So if you're going to do a dash like the one on the Ranchero that I did, and it came out looking like dog shit, you're going to need to cut and stitch. And typically what you're going to need to do, actually, no, I'll just go back over to the Ranchero and explain what you need to do, because I did that. Let's see. I actually did do that on the dash on my Newport too, and I can probably show that one as well. But you know, I didn't take into. I thought I was going to be able to wrap it and just in one piece, and it didn't work out. But I may redo it in the future. My dad just wanted to drive the car, so I just stuck it back in and shipped it. So, but I'll go back over there and I'll show you what you need to do in those areas. All right, so here's the dash installed in the Ranchero. And we'll get a shot from the side. So I actually don't really hate this here, the wrinkles here. That really doesn't bother me so much. It's this piece here. And so what you end up needing to do is, because it's got a curve there, it curves down this way and then in this way. Like on my Bronco, it was Asymmetical. So that's why it ended up fucking that up there. And I actually might be able to just get a piece and cut it to fit here and then stitch it in and cover that up so it would look kind of flat. But what you want to do on pieces like this is you're going to want to stitch in, you're going to cut this right here and then wrap it, and then you're going to want to stitch the two pieces together. And then probably what you'll end up doing is like make another piece right here, and those are going to be the two separate pieces, and then you're going to make your centerpiece and they'll be stitched together. And basically what you have to do is you have to lay the flat. Man, this is really, like, I did it before on the Newport where I laid the piece out, and then you got to like take another piece at a 90-degree angle and stitch it together. So you get the piece, you cut it to fit, and then you take your other piece to wrap around it and you stitch it at a 90-degree angle. So then you've got your piece that goes over it. So like you would get a centerpiece, you would like you would probably take a piece, a flat piece, and that would be able to lay over this and run up here. And then you would cut it in a shape from like right there. And then that goes down there. So then you got that piece, right? You got that piece that goes over that, and then you take your other piece and you stitch it at a 90-degree angle right there. And then when that other piece comes up, then you stitch it in right here where this other large section is. Now that's what I should have done. I didn't do it because I was in a rush. But I can show you what I did with the Newport. So, yeah. So there it is. So here's what I did on the Newport. It's less noticeable, but that curve there was going to create a problem for the whole dash. And so what I did here was I stitched them, and it's hard to tell, but I folded them over and stitched them. These two pieces are actually just super glued here. I stitched it there, and so it may, because usually what they do is they'll fold them under, stitch the stitch them there, and then they'll on the back side they'll run stitches through here to stitch them all together. I just super glued them there, and it's kind of hard to tell that's what was done, and you can see the curve there. But that's how you bring the two pieces together. Now this over here, that's not what I did here. I put this piece over to cover it, and you know, at some point I'm probably gonna cut this out and stitch it in like I did on the other piece. Because what I would have to do, I think, is well, at this point I would have to cut it there because I put that there and super glued it. But I'd have to cut my piece out that fits into this, and then stitch it there and stitch it there, and then wrap it around it. Because when it came up to that corner, and I wrapped it around, I had a big wrinkle up there. Or if you have a dead space or you have a wrinkle, you can cut it out and then make a specific piece to go in and then stitch it in, and it won't look as good, but at least you'll have a piece stitched in there, and it won't be a big hole or an uneven space. So I don't claim to be a professional. This is just my method that I've done to rewrap and try to save some money and make it look a little bit more decent. So maybe it'll be worth a try for you, maybe not, but I hope it was informative.